Here's a powerful Gaur Gopal Das style hook intro and 7 key points for the speech. Stop expecting too much from people. My dear friends, let me ask you a question. How many times have you been disappointed because someone didn't do what you expected? How many times have you felt hurt because someone didn't appreciate your efforts? How many times have you given your heart, your time, your energy, and your kindness to someone only to receive very little in return? The truth is, most of our unhappiness doesn't come from what people do. It comes from what we expected them to do. We expect people to understand us without explanation. We expect people to value us the same way we value them. We expect people to always be there for us. We expect people to think like us, care like us, and behave like us. And when reality doesn't match our expectations, we feel disappointed. We feel hurt. We feel betrayed. But my dear friends, here's a life-changing lesson. The lower your expectations from people, the higher your peace of mind. This doesn't mean you stop loving people. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become cold or selfish. It simply means you stop making your happiness dependent on the behavior of others. You see, every person is fighting their own battles. Every person has their own priorities. Every person has their own limitations. And expecting everyone to meet all your emotional needs is setting yourself up for disappointment. Today, I want to share 7 powerful lessons that will help you stop expecting too much from people and start protecting your peace. Because true happiness begins when expectations end and acceptance begins. 1. People can only give what they have. Don't expect understanding from someone who lacks emotional awareness. Don't expect loyalty from someone who doesn't value commitment. 2. Stop expecting everyone to think like you. People have different experiences, values, priorities, and perspectives. 3. Learn to give without always expecting something back. The purest kindness comes without conditions attached. 4. Accept people for who they are. Stop trying to turn people into the version you wish they were. 5. Build emotional independence. Your happiness should not depend entirely on how others treat you. 6. Communicate. Instead of assuming many disappointments happen because expectations were never clearly expressed. 7. Focus more on gratitude than expectations. Appreciate what people do rather than constantly focusing on what they don't do. My dear friends, one of the greatest sources of suffering in life is expecting too much from people. And one of the greatest sources of peace is accepting people as they are. Remember this: when you expect less, you appreciate more. When you stop demanding perfection, you enjoy relationships more. When you stop making others responsible for your happiness, you become emotionally stronger. Love people, respect people, help people. But don't build your peace on expectations. Build it on understanding. Build it on acceptance. Build it on gratitude. Because the moment you stop expecting everyone to be exactly who you want them to be, you free yourself from countless disappointments. And that freedom is where real peace begins. Thank you. One of the most important lessons for finding peace in relationships and in life is understanding that people can only give what they have. This simple truth has the power to eliminate countless disappointments, misunderstandings, and emotional wounds. Many people suffer because they expect others to provide something that those individuals are simply unable to provide. They expect understanding from people who lack emotional awareness. They expect loyalty from people who do not value commitment. They expect kindness from people who are struggling with their own pain. They expect maturity from people who have never learned emotional responsibility. And when these expectations are not met, they feel hurt, they feel disappointed, they feel betrayed. But often the problem is not that the other person intentionally wanted to hurt them. The problem is that they expected someone to give what they did not possess. Think about it this way. If a person has only $10 in their pocket, you cannot expect them to give you $100, no matter how much you want it, no matter how much you deserve it, no matter how badly you need it. They simply do not have it to give. The same principle applies emotionally. Many people are emotionally limited. Some have never learned how to communicate properly. Some have never experienced healthy relationships. Some have never developed empathy. Some are carrying deep wounds that affect how they treat others. Some struggle to understand emotions, including their own. Expecting these individuals to suddenly provide emotional support, understanding, patience, or maturity may be unrealistic. This does not mean they are bad people. It simply means they are giving from the level at which they currently exist. Mentally strong people understand this reality. Instead of constantly asking, why aren't they giving me what I need? They ask, are they actually capable of giving it? This question creates understanding, and understanding creates peace. One reason people become disappointed so often is because they assume others think exactly as they do. They believe that if they would make a certain effort for someone, then others should do the same for them. If they remember special occasions, they expect others to remember as well. If they check on friends during difficult times, they expect others to do the same. If they offer support when someone is struggling, they expect equal support in return. When these expectations are not fulfilled, disappointment appears. But people are different. They have different personalities, different priorities, different emotional capacities, different ways of expressing care. Just because someone does not behave exactly as you would, does not automatically mean they do not care. It may simply mean they express care differently. Another important truth is that people often give according to their level of awareness. Imagine trying to explain a beautiful sunset to someone who has spent their entire life indoors and never looked at the sky. They may struggle to understand the beauty you are describing, not because they are unwilling, but because they lack the experience necessary to fully appreciate it. Similarly, some people cannot provide certain forms of emotional support because they have never learned those skills. They may not know how to listen deeply. They may not know how to express affection. They may not know how to encourage others. They may not know how to handle emotional conversations. Expecting them to naturally possess these abilities can lead to frustration. Calm and wise people recognize these limitations. They adjust their expectations accordingly. This does not mean they accept harmful behavior. It simply means they see people realistically. Another reason this lesson is powerful is because it helps prevent resentment. Resentment often develops when people repeatedly expect something that never arrives. They keep waiting for appreciation. They keep waiting for understanding. They keep waiting for recognition. They keep waiting for someone to become different. Years pass. Nothing changes. The disappointment slowly transforms into bitterness. Mentally strong people avoid this trap because they learn to see people clearly. They stop building expectations based on fantasy. They start accepting reality. When they understand what a person can realistically offer, they experience fewer disappointments. And fewer disappointments mean less resentment. This understanding is especially important in relationships. Many relationships suffer because people try to change one another. They see who a person is, but they focus entirely on who they wish that person would become. They create an ideal version in their mind. Then they become frustrated when reality does not match the image. Wise people understand that acceptance is healthier than constant frustration. They acknowledge both strengths and limitations. They appreciate what is present instead of endlessly focusing on what is missing. This creates more realistic and peaceful relationships. Another powerful aspect of this lesson is that it teaches emotional maturity. Emotional maturity means understanding that people are imperfect. Everyone has weaknesses. Everyone has blind spots. Everyone has limitations. Even good people make mistakes. Even loving people sometimes fail. Even caring people sometimes disappoint others. When we expect perfection from imperfect human beings, disappointment becomes inevitable. Mentally strong people understand this. They stop demanding perfection. They stop expecting every person to meet every emotional need. Instead, they develop a more balanced perspective. They appreciate people for what they can offer while recognizing what they cannot. This mindset creates greater emotional stability. Another benefit of understanding that people can only give what they have is that it helps protect your energy. Many people spend years trying to force others to become different. They repeat the same arguments. They repeat the same expectations. They repeat the same frustrations. The result is emotional exhaustion. Mentally strong people recognize when they are fighting reality. Instead of constantly trying to change people, they focus on making wise decisions about how they interact with them. They establish boundaries when necessary. They communicate clearly. They accept what cannot be changed. This approach saves enormous amounts of emotional energy. Perhaps one of the most valuable parts of this lesson is that it increases compassion. When you understand that people often act from their level of awareness, pain, and emotional development, you begin viewing them differently. You become less judgmental, less angry, less reactive. You start realizing that many people are doing the best they can with the tools they currently possess. Some people grew up without healthy role models. Some never learned emotional intelligence. Some are carrying burdens you cannot see. This understanding does not excuse harmful behavior, but it does create compassion. And compassion often brings peace where anger once existed. Life becomes much easier when you stop expecting every person to be everything you need. No single person can provide perfect understanding, perfect support, perfect loyalty, perfect wisdom, and perfect consistency all the time. People are human. They have strengths. They have weaknesses. They have good days and bad days. They have limitations. When you accept this reality, your relationships become healthier. Your expectations become more realistic. Your disappointments become less frequent. And your peace of mind grows stronger. The truth is simple but powerful. People can only give what they have. A person cannot give understanding they have never developed. A person cannot give emotional maturity they have never learned. A person cannot give what does not exist within them. The sooner you understand this, the sooner you stop taking every disappointment personally. You stop asking, why aren't they giving me more? And you start seeing people for who they truly are. That understanding changes everything. It reduces frustration. It increases acceptance. It strengthens relationships. And most importantly, it protects your inner peace. Because true peace begins when you stop demanding from people what they are unable to give and start accepting them with wisdom, clarity, and realistic expectations. One of the biggest reasons people experience disappointment in relationships is because they expect everyone to think like them. They assume that other people will see situations the same way, feel emotions the same way, make decisions the same way, and respond to life the same way. When reality proves otherwise, frustration begins. They wonder why someone did not react the way they expected. They question why another person made a different choice. They feel hurt because someone did not understand something that seemed obvious to them. The truth is that every person sees the world through a unique lens. Every individual has different experiences, different beliefs, different values, different fears, different priorities, different personalities. Because of these differences, people naturally think differently. Mentally strong and emotionally mature people understand this reality. Instead of expecting everyone to think exactly like them, they learn to respect differences. This simple shift creates tremendous peace. Think about two people standing on opposite sides of a mountain. One person sees a beautiful sunrise. The other sees a beautiful sunset. If they argue about what they see, both may insist they are right. Yet both perspectives are valid because they are viewing the mountain from different positions. Life often works the same way. People approach situations from different backgrounds and experiences. As a result, their perspectives differ. This does not necessarily mean one person is right and the other is wrong. It often means they are looking at the same situation from different angles. Many misunderstandings occur because people forget this truth. They assume that if something is obvious to them, it should be obvious to everyone else. When others disagree, they become frustrated. But what seems obvious to one person may not seem obvious to another. People process information differently. People interpret events differently. People prioritize things differently. Recognizing this reality can eliminate countless unnecessary conflicts. Another reason people struggle with expectations is because they often use themselves as the standard for everyone else. They think, if I would do this for someone, they should do it for me. If I would make that sacrifice, they should make it too. If I would respond this way, they should respond the same way. While this thinking is understandable, it often leads to disappointment, not because others are bad people, but because others are different people. Just because you would react a certain way does not mean everyone else will. Just because something is important to you does not mean it holds the same importance for someone else. Mentally strong people understand this. They stop measuring everyone according to their own personality. Instead, they learn to appreciate differences. This does not mean they agree with every viewpoint. It simply means they acknowledge that different viewpoints exist. Another important truth is that people's priorities vary greatly. What matters deeply to one person may seem less important to another. For example, one person may value quality time above everything else. Another may value independence. One person may prioritize emotional connection. Another may prioritize practical support. One person may express love through words. Another may express love through actions. When people fail to recognize these differences, misunderstandings occur. They assume that because someone is not showing care in the exact way they prefer, that person does not care. Often, this assumption is incorrect. The care may be present. It may simply be expressed differently. Learning to understand these differences creates healthier relationships. Another reason it is important to stop expecting everyone to think like you is because doing so increases empathy. Empathy grows when people become curious about other perspectives. Instead of immediately judging someone's behavior, they ask questions. Instead of assuming bad intentions, they seek understanding. Instead of becoming defensive, they listen. This mindset transforms relationships. Imagine a disagreement between two friends. One insists that their perspective is the only correct one. The conversation quickly becomes an argument. Neither person feels understood. Neither person learns anything new. Now imagine a different approach. One friend says, "Help me understand why you see it that way." Suddenly, the conversation changes. Understanding becomes possible. Respect grows. Consent strengthens. This is the power of accepting that people think differently. Another benefit of this mindset is reduced emotional stress. Many people exhaust themselves trying to change other people's opinions. They argue endlessly. They try to force agreement. They become frustrated when others do not think the same way. The result is emotional fatigue. Mentally strong people recognize that they cannot control how others think, nor do they need to. They focus on understanding rather than controlling. They focus on communication rather than persuasion, because they stop fighting every difference. They experience greater peace. Another important lesson is that diversity of thought can actually be valuable. If everyone thought exactly the same way, growth would be limited. Innovation would be limited. Learning would be limited. Different perspectives often reveal things we cannot see on our own. Someone else's viewpoint may challenge our assumptions. It may help us recognize blind spots. It may offer solutions we never considered. Mentally strong people remain open to these possibilities. They do not view every disagreement as a threat. They view it as an opportunity to learn. This attitude creates personal growth. It expands understanding. It strengthens wisdom. Another reason expecting everyone to think like you creates problems is because it places unrealistic pressure on relationships. People begin demanding similarity instead of appreciating individuality. They become frustrated whenever differences appear. Over time, this damages connection. Healthy relationships are not built on identical thinking. They are built on mutual respect. People can disagree and still care about one another. They can have different perspectives and still maintain strong relationships. They can think differently and still support each other. Mentally strong people understand this. Because of that understanding, they do not allow every disagreement to become a conflict. Perhaps one of the greatest benefits of accepting different perspectives is emotional freedom. When you stop expecting everyone to think exactly like you, a burden disappears. You stop feeling personally attacked by every disagreement. You stop becoming upset every time someone sees things differently. You stop wasting energy trying to control other people's minds. Instead, you focus on what truly matters. You focus on understanding. You focus on communication. You focus on connection. This creates a sense of peace that many people never experience. Life becomes less stressful because you no longer expect the impossible. The reality is simple. Every person has lived a different life. Every person has learned different lessons. Every person has experienced different struggles. Because of these differences, people naturally think differently, and that is not a problem. It is part of being human. When you accept this truth, relationships become easier. Communication becomes healthier. Disappointments become less frequent. You stop expecting everyone to think exactly like you. You stop assuming that your perspective is the only valid one. You stop demanding complete agreement. Instead, you learn to appreciate differences while maintaining respect. This does not weaken relationships. It strengthens them, because real connection does not come from thinking exactly the same way. It comes from understanding, respecting, and valuing each other despite differences. And when you truly understand that people have different experiences, values, priorities, and perspectives, you free yourself from countless unnecessary disappointments. You stop expecting everyone to think like you. And in doing so, you gain a deeper level of peace, wisdom, and emotional maturity. One of the most liberating lessons you can learn in life is to give without always expecting something back. Many people experience disappointment, not because they are unkind, but because their kindness is often connected to hidden expectations. They help someone and expect appreciation. They support someone and expect loyalty. They give their time and expect equal effort in return. They make sacrifices and expect recognition. When those expectations are not fulfilled, they feel hurt, frustrated, and disappointed. The truth is that many of our emotional wounds do not come from what we gave. They come from what we expected to receive. This is why learning to give without constantly expecting something back is such a powerful source of peace. It does not mean allowing people to take advantage of you. It does not mean becoming a doormat. It does not mean ignoring healthy boundaries. It simply means that your kindness is not controlled by a constant need for reward, validation, or repayment. Mentally strong people understand this principle. They choose to be kind because kindness reflects who they are. They choose to help because helping aligns with their values. They choose to support others because it is the right thing to do. Their actions come from character rather than expectation. As a result, they experience less disappointment. Think about the sun. Every day, it shines on everyone. It shines on people who appreciate it. It shines on people who ignore it. It shines on those who are grateful and those who are not. The sun does not stop giving light because someone failed to acknowledge it. Its purpose is simply to shine. In a similar way, emotionally mature people learn to give from a place of purpose rather than expectation. They understand that the value of their actions is not determined by how others respond. One reason expectations create so much pain is because they often remain unspoken. People perform acts of kindness while secretly hoping for a particular response. They expect gratitude. They expect loyalty. They expect affection. They expect support. Yet they never clearly communicate these expectations. When others fail to meet them, disappointment follows. The problem is that the other person may not even know those expectations existed. Mentally strong people recognize this dynamic. They understand that when kindness is tied to hidden conditions, frustration becomes almost inevitable. Instead, they focus on giving freely when they choose to give. This creates emotional freedom. Another reason giving without expecting something back is important is because people express appreciation differently. Sometimes you may give your best effort to someone and receive little acknowledgement. This does not necessarily mean your effort had no value. People have different ways of expressing gratitude. Some express it with words. Some express it with actions. Some struggle to express it at all. If your happiness depends entirely on receiving a specific response, you may overlook the impact your kindness actually had. Mentally strong people understand this. They do not allow the absence of recognition to erase the value of their actions. They know what they contributed. They know why they did it. That understanding is often enough. Another powerful truth is that expectations can quietly transform kindness into transactions. A transaction says, I will do this for you if I receive something in return. Kindness says, I choose to do this because it reflects my values. When every act of generosity becomes a transaction, relationships become complicated. People begin keeping score. They count favors. They compare efforts. They monitor who gave more and who gave less. Over time, this mindset creates resentment. Mentally strong people avoid this trap. They understand that not everything in life needs to be measured. Not every act of kindness requires repayment. Not every gesture needs a reward. Because they think this way, they experience greater peace. Another reason to give without expecting something back is that it strengthens your character. Character is revealed not only by how you treat people when they reward you, but also by how you treat people when they do not. Anyone can be generous when appreciation is guaranteed. Anyone can be kind when recognition is certain. True character appears when kindness continues even without applause. Mentally strong people understand this. Their values are not dependent on external rewards. They choose honesty because they value honesty. They choose kindness because they value kindness. They choose generosity because they value generosity. This consistency creates integrity, and integrity creates inner strength. Another benefit of this mindset is that it reduces resentment in relationships. Many relationships suffer because people are constantly keeping emotional accounts. I did this for them. They should do the same for me. I helped them. They owe me. These thoughts create pressure. They create expectations. They create disappointment. Mentally strong people understand that healthy relationships require generosity. Not blind generosity, not unlimited sacrifice, but a willingness to give without constantly calculating returns. This attitude strengthens relationships because it reduces unnecessary tension. It allows appreciation to grow naturally rather than being demanded. Another important truth is that giving freely allows you to maintain control over your emotional well-being. When your happiness depends on how others respond to your kindness, you place your emotional state in their hands. If they appreciate you, you feel good. If they ignore you, you feel hurt. If they repay you, you feel valued. If they do not, you feel disappointed. Mentally strong people refuse to surrender that much control. They understand that while appreciation is wonderful, it cannot be the foundation of their peace. Their peace comes from knowing they acted according to their values. That internal satisfaction is far more reliable than external validation. Another reason this lesson is so powerful is that life is not always fair. Sometimes you will give your best and receive very little in return. Sometimes your efforts will go unnoticed. Sometimes your sacrifices will not be recognized. Sometimes your kindness will not be appreciated. These experiences can feel painful, but mentally strong people understand that allowing bitterness to grow only creates additional suffering. Instead of focusing on what they did not receive, they focus on the person they are becoming. Every act of kindness strengthens character. Every act of generosity develops maturity. Every act of compassion contributes to personal growth. This perspective transforms disappointment into wisdom. This, perhaps the greatest benefit of giving without expecting something back, is freedom. Freedom from constant frustration. Freedom from keeping score. Freedom from disappointment caused by unrealistic expectations. Freedom from depending on external validation. When you give because it reflects your values, rather than because you expect a reward, something remarkable happens. Your peace becomes more stable. Your relationships become healthier. Your kindness becomes more genuine. And your happiness becomes less dependent on the behavior of others. The reality is that people will sometimes disappoint you. They will forget what you did for them. They will fail to express gratitude. They will not always respond the way you hoped. If your kindness depends entirely on their reaction, disappointment will follow. But if your kindness comes from your character, your peace remains intact. You know why you acted. You know what you stand for. You know the values guiding your life. And that knowledge provides a deep sense of fulfillment. Give because it reflects who you are. Give because it aligns with your principles. Give because it contributes to the kind of person you want to become. Not because you are guaranteed something in return. Because when you learn to give without always expecting something back, you discover a powerful truth. The greatest reward for kindness is not what others give you. The greatest reward is the peace that comes from knowing you acted with integrity, generosity, and a good heart, regardless of how others responded. One of the most important lessons for finding peace in relationships is learning to accept people for who they are, instead of constantly trying to turn them into the version you wish they were. Many people spend years feeling frustrated, disappointed, and emotionally exhausted because they are fighting a battle they can never truly win. They are trying to change another person. They want someone to think differently, behave differently, communicate differently, or become someone entirely different from who they currently are. When these changes do not happen, frustration grows and relationships begin to suffer. The truth is that one of the greatest causes of emotional pain is the gap between reality and expectation. We see someone as they are, but instead of accepting that reality, we focus on who we wish they would become. We create an ideal version of them in our minds. We imagine how they should act. We imagine what they should say. We imagine how they should treat us. Then, when the real person fails to match the imagined version, disappointment appears. Mentally strong and emotionally mature people understand something important. They understand that acceptance is often more powerful than control. They recognize that every person is unique. Every person has their own personality, their own strengths, their own weaknesses, their own habits, their own beliefs, their own journey. Because of this, expecting people to perfectly match our preferences is unrealistic. Think about a gardener tending different plants. A wise gardener does not become angry because a rose bush does not produce mangoes. They do not become frustrated because a sunflower is not a rose. They understand that every plant has its own nature, its own beauty, its own purpose. The gardener appreciates each plant for what it is. Relationships work in a similar way. Peace comes when we stop demanding that people become something they were never meant to be and start appreciating them for who they actually are. This does not mean ignoring problems. It does not mean accepting harmful behavior. It does not mean staying silent when boundaries are needed. Acceptance simply means seeing people clearly. It means recognizing reality rather than constantly fighting against it. Many people spend enormous amounts of energy trying to change others. They repeat the same arguments. They offer the same advice. They express the same frustrations again and again. Months pass, years pass, very little changes. Eventually, they become exhausted. Not because the other person is difficult, but because they are trying to control something they cannot control. Mentally strong people understand that true change must come from within. You can influence people. You can encourage people. You can support people. But you cannot force transformation. A person changes when they decide to change, not simply because someone else wants them to. Understanding this reality creates tremendous emotional freedom. Another reason acceptance is so powerful is because it allows relationships to become more authentic. When people constantly feel pressured to become someone else, they often become defensive. They feel judged. They feel criticized. They feel misunderstood. As a result, emotional distance grows. Acceptance creates a different environment. It communicates respect. It communicates understanding. It communicates that a person is valued as they are, even while growth remains possible. This does not weaken relationships, it strengthens them, because people feel safer when they are accepted. Another important truth is that every person has limitations. Many disappointments occur because people expect others to provide things they are unable to provide. They expect emotional support from someone who struggles with emotions. They expect deep understanding from someone who lacks awareness. They expect constant availability from someone overwhelmed by their own responsibilities. When these expectations are not met, frustration follows. Mentally strong people recognize limitations. They understand that accepting limitations is not the same as approving of them. It simply means acknowledging reality. When you understand what a person can realistically offer, your expectations become healthier, and healthier expectations create greater peace. Acceptance also helps reduce unnecessary conflict. Many arguments are not really about major issues. They are about resistance. One person wants another person to behave differently. The other person resists. The cycle repeats.